Hi guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, hi, my name's Eva and I'm a mortgage power planner. Now in today's video, I want to discuss shared ownership, and the reason for that is because I've had quite a few questions about it, how it works and what it is really, because I don't know whether you've seen, but on the likes of Zoopla, you can actually select shared ownership as a filter option. And like me, you've probably seen houses at really cheap prices, but then in the description it actually says shared ownership. So despite the clue kind of being in the name, I do want to explain this in a lot more detail to you, just so you understand what's involved in this type of scheme and whether it's right for you. But ultimately, if you are considering shared ownership, please consult a mortgage advisor, as they'll be able to tell you whether it is the right solution for you. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So let's start with explaining what shared ownership actually is. So shared ownership properties are part of the affordable housing scheme that the government has introduced in a variety of different ways to help people onto the property ladder. So normally when you buy a property, you will buy 100% of it, right? Now with shared ownership, you're buying a percentage of that property and you're actually renting out the rest at discounted rent. So let's assume you buy 50% of a house. You would pay your mortgage on the 50% that you buy and then rent on the 50% that the other owner owns. So in effect, you're sharing the ownership of that house with somebody else. Now most of these properties will be owned by the likes of your housing associations, but some will have private ownership as well. So how does it actually work? So as I briefly mentioned before, when you find a house that you like, you can purchase a share in that property. So let's say you can afford to buy 50% of that property. You would then get a mortgage towards funding that 50% ownership, and on the rest of it you would pay rent. Now the rent will be discounted based on obviously how much ownership you're buying. So you're not going to be paying full rent and then full mortgage. The rent will be reduced accordingly. Can I buy more shares later on? Yes, you can, and this process is actually called staircasing. So normally the minimum that you'll need to buy if you are funding it with a mortgage is 25%. However, a lot of these housing associations do allow you to go right up to 100%. So normally what you can do is buy the likes of 10% or 15% at a time after your initial purchase to get up to that 100%. Now, bear in mind that certain properties don't allow 100% ownership for one reason or another, so always check with the landlord whether that is allowed, as ideally you want to get up to 100% ownership on that property. So how much can you actually borrow? So most lenders will require you to purchase at least 25% ownership, and they'll require you to have normally about a 5 to 10% deposit towards that. So once again, if we take a house valued at £100,000 for example, and you're buying a 25% share at £25,000, you'll need to put down a deposit of at least £1,250 if we're assuming a 5% deposit, or £2,500 if we're assuming a 10% deposit. So do you see how that works? And as I mentioned before, you can then purchase additional shares in that property, but each time you'll be required to put down some sort of deposit towards the purchase. Now in terms of how much you can actually borrow, that will highly depend on your affordability, so your income and expenditure. Now please bear in mind that the rent that you're going to be paying on the remaining share of the property will be included in your expenditure, so it will naturally reduce the amount you can borrow. So please speak to a mortgage advisor, as they'll be able to provide you with some figures. Do I need a deposit? So yes, covered that off briefly in the previous section. Yes, you will require a deposit, normally between 5 to 10%. But if you can afford to put down more, then by all means do it, or put it towards buying a bigger share. Is the rent included in my expenses? Yes, it is. So the rent that you're paying on the remaining share of the property that you're not buying will be included in your expenditure when assessing how much you can actually borrow. But a mortgage advisor will be able to tell you more accurate figures as to how much that will reduce your borrowing capacity by. Can I sell the property? Yes, you can. So if you only own a certain share of the property, you're able to sell that share. Now, majority of these type of properties are on the leasehold basis rather than freehold, so you will need to contact your lease provider or the housing association to let them know that you're actually wanting to sell the property, as there is a procedure that goes with it. So it's not as simple as selling your own home, if that makes sense. Unless, of course, you've managed to get to 100% ownership through staircasing, at which point the property is fully yours. So just something to bear in mind on that one. So that is it for today's video, guys. I hope you found that useful and it's given you some food for thought. Personally, I do think it's a really good scheme, especially down south where property prices are ridiculous. Up north, we're lucky enough to have quite low property prices, so we're able to afford to buy a house at 100% ownership rather than going through these types of schemes. However, they are also available up north, so if you are living here and if you are struggling to get onto the property ladder, shared ownership might be a good way for you to do so. So it's definitely worth looking into and speaking to your mortgage advisor about, as they'll be able to tell you more details about it and also whether it is the right solution for you. So with that being said, guys, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel down below, as it really helps my channel to grow. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys back on Friday with a brand new video. Bye, guys.